He told me, "You're just a phase until I find the right one." I, 24 female, have been seeing this guy, let's call him Ethan, 26 male, for about 6 months now. Honestly, it started out really great, and I thought things were serious, but then a few weeks ago, he said something that completely threw me off. We met through a mutual friend at a small party. I remember the night vividly because I was kind of dreading going, but Ethan was different. Not the type I usually go for. He was charming in a quiet way, not overly flashy or loud, but he had this energy that made you feel like he actually cared about what you were saying. We talked for hours that night, about everything and nothing. He laughed at my dumb jokes, I laughed at his, and it was just effortless. After that, we started texting constantly. I don't even remember how it happened, but within a few days, he asked me out on a proper date. He was considerate, funny, and attentive, like the kind of guy who notices when you mention something in passing and then follows up on it later. I honestly haven't felt that kind of connection in years. We went out a few times and every time felt natural. No games, no weird pressure, just good vibes. About 2 months into dating, things got a little more official. We hadn't had the exclusive talk yet, but we were hanging out a lot. I met some of his friends, he met some of mine. Things were moving in a way that felt natural, and I honestly thought we were on the same page. Then one night, after a few drinks and a long conversation about our past relationships, he said something that I've been trying to process ever since. We were lying on the couch after dinner at his apartment, just talking about our dating histories, and he casually said, "You know, I've had a lot of relationships, but I've never found someone who felt like the one. I'm not saying you're not great, but I feel like you might just be a phase until I find the right one." At first, I laughed. I mean, it sounded like he was joking, right? But his tone didn't suggest that. It was calm, serious, almost like a statement of fact. I asked him what he meant, and he shrugged like it was no big deal. He said he liked me, enjoyed spending time with me, but he didn't want to promise anything long-term because he wasn't sure if he had met the person he could see himself with forever. I froze. I don't think I even responded properly at the time. I just went home that night feeling like someone had shoved a knife through my chest. I mean, we were dating, having fun, and suddenly I'm supposed to accept that to him, I might just be temporary entertainment. The next day I tried to act normal, but I was shaking inside. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I texted him later, asking if he realized how hurtful that was, and he said, "I'm just being honest. I don't want to lead you on. Honesty is good, right?" But here's the thing, what exactly does that mean? Does honesty mean saying hurtful things to spare someone the potential pain later? Or does it just excuse a lack of commitment? I kept asking myself these questions for days. Despite all of this, I didn't break up with him immediately. I know. Part of me thinks that was stupid. But here's why I didn't. I like him. A lot. More than I've liked anyone in years. We click in a way that feels rare. Every time we spend time together, it's fun, it's easy, it's comforting. And for some reason, I convinced myself that maybe I could just enjoy being with him for what it was, without expecting anything more. So we continued seeing each other. I tried to push the comment to the back of my mind, but it kept coming up. Whenever we talked about the future, even casually, like weekend plans or holiday plans, it would hit me. He doesn't see me as long-term. I'm just a placeholder. And honestly, that thought hurt more than I can explain. Fast forward a few weeks and things got complicated. His birthday came up and he invited me to a small gathering with his friends. I was excited to go, but part of me couldn't shake the feeling that I was just filling time until someone else came along. At the party, I noticed how often he flirted with other women. Not in a mean-spirited or over-the-top way, just subtle things, laughing a little too hard at jokes, lingering touches, complimenting looks. Normally, I wouldn't have cared, but now every interaction felt like a reminder that I might not be the right one for him. I tried to talk to him about it later. I said, "I can't stop thinking about what you said the other night. If you see me as a phase, how am I supposed to feel when you flirt with other people?" He looked surprised, like I was overreacting. He said, "I don't flirt with them to hurt you. It's just who I am. And I thought you said you were okay with this not being serious." And that's when I realized the problem. I wasn't okay with it. I wasn't okay with being a placeholder. I wanted someone who saw me as a priority, someone who genuinely wanted to build something with me, not just enjoy the moment until they find someone better. So, I started distancing myself a little, which he noticed immediately. He called me out, asking why I was acting differently, and I tried to explain. I said, I like you, but I can't keep pretending I'm fine with being a phase. I need someone who sees me as more than that. His response? I can't change who I am. I don't know if I've met the right person yet. I don't want to hurt you, but I also don't want to promise something I'm not sure I can give. I couldn't argue with that. I couldn't. I just nodded and left, feeling a mix of sadness, frustration, and confusion. Here's the thing, Reddit. Part of me wants to be mature and accept this. He's being honest. He's not lying to me, he's not cheating, he's not manipulative. And yet, another part of me feels completely disrespected. Like, if he truly liked me, would he even say something like that? Wouldn't he try to reassure me instead of essentially telling me I'm temporary? After that, I spent a lot of time thinking. I considered breaking up, but I also thought about how much I enjoy being with him. We have fun, we laugh, we connect. I feel understood and cared for in ways I haven't in a long time. I started wondering if maybe I'm overreacting. If maybe I can be okay with being in a relationship that isn't guaranteed to last. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this isn't about him being bad or wrong. This is about my needs. I want someone who sees me as a long-term partner, who values me in the present and the future. And I'm not sure I can get that from Ethan, at least not as he is now. So here I am, still dating him, still caught in this weird in-between place where I like him. But I also feel like I'm setting myself up for heartbreak. And to make matters worse, my friends are split. Some say I should enjoy it while it lasts. Some say I'm being naive and letting myself get hurt. Reddit. AITA for continuing to date someone after he told me he sees me as just a phase until he finds the right one? Should I stay and enjoy the moments we have? Or should I leave before I get more attached and hurt even more? After that conversation, things didn't immediately fall apart, but they shifted. I tried to act normal, to pretend like the phase comment hadn't shaken me to my core, but every interaction with Ethan reminded me of it. Simple things like holding hands, brushing against each other on the couch, or him complimenting someone else started to feel like minefields. I would smile, laugh, nod, but inside my thoughts were racing. Does he really care about me? Am I just here to fill a gap until someone better comes along? At first, I thought maybe I could compartmentalize. I told myself, just enjoy the time together. Don't think about the future. Don't expect permanence. Just live in the moment. And for a little while it worked. When we went to the movies or cooked dinner together, I could laugh and joke and feel happy. But inevitably the thought of him finding the right one crept in. Like a shadow lurking in the corners of my mind. Things started getting more complicated when we were invited to a weekend getaway with some mutual friends. Ethan seemed excited about it, but I started noticing little things that set my teeth on edge. He would glance at other women's Instagram stories during our downtime, make comments about someone's appearance that felt a little too personal, or linger a little longer than necessary when chatting with someone else. I don't want to sound paranoid or controlling. He hadn't done anything overtly inappropriate. But now, because of what he'd said, I couldn't interpret any action at face value. Every laugh, every touch, every casual compliment became a question mark in my head. Is he interested in her? Is he just being friendly? Am I reading too much into this? One night during the trip, we were sitting by the fire with some friends, just relaxing and talking. Ethan leaned over and whispered something in my ear that made my stomach twist. You know, I think you're great, but I can't promise forever. I'm just trying to enjoy the time while I figure things out. I felt like the words pierced me. It wasn't malicious, it wasn't a breakup, but it was worse than that. It was a reminder that no matter what I felt, no matter how much I liked him, I wasn't the one. I wanted to say something, to tell him that his honesty was hurting me more than anything else, but the words stuck in my throat. I didn't want to ruin the trip, and honestly, I was still trying to convince myself I could handle it. That night, lying in bed in the cabin, I cried. Quietly. Alone. I didn't want him to hear because I didn't want him to feel guilty, but the truth is I was hurt. Deeply hurt. I kept asking myself, am I being dramatic? Should I just accept that this is who he is? Or am I being foolish by staying in a relationship where I'm not fully valued? By the end of the weekend, things between us felt strained. I was quieter, more withdrawn. Ethan noticed, of course, and asked what was wrong. I tried to explain gently, saying that his comment about me being a phase had been hard to shake, and that seeing him flirt, however subtly, with other people didn't help. His response was calm, almost defensive. I'm not flirting with them to hurt you. I don't know if I've met the right person yet. I thought you said you were okay with this not being serious. And there it was again. The subtle implication that my feelings were somehow misplaced, that my hurt was my own fault. I felt trapped between liking him too much to walk away and recognizing that my emotional needs weren't being met. After we got home, I tried talking to him more seriously. I said, I don't know if I can just enjoy being with you without expecting more. I can't turn off my feelings or pretend that being a phase is okay. He sighed, ran his hands through his hair, and said, I like you. I enjoy spending time with you, but I also can't promise more than that. If you want someone who's fully committed, maybe you should find that somewhere else. It was like he was offering me a lifeboat and a shove at the same time. I appreciated the honesty, but it also stung. Really, really stung. I left that conversation feeling torn. Part of me wanted to leave, to protect myself from inevitable heartbreak, but another part of me couldn't. I wanted to be with him, even knowing the risks. The weeks that followed were a roller coaster. Sometimes we'd have amazing days together, laughing until our stomachs hurt, sharing late-night conversations, teasing each other endlessly. Other times it would feel like walking on eggshells, trying not to let the thought of him eventually moving on consume me. One of the hardest moments came when one of his exes reached out to him on social media. She was polite, just asking how he'd been, but I couldn't help the jealousy that surged inside me. My mind spiraled. Why is she reaching out? Does he think about her? Will he ever compare me to her? I tried to push it down, to rationalize it. Ethan responded politely, but nothing more. He didn't mention it to me at first, and I thought maybe that was a relief. But when he finally brought it up casually, I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Yeah, she reached out. We just talked a little. Nothing important, he said, smiling casually. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him that while it might be nothing to him, every interaction with someone else could feel like a threat to me now. But I didn't. Instead, I nodded and smiled, hiding the storm of emotions inside me. That night, I cried again. And the night after. And the night after that, my friends noticed I was quieter, less energetic. I told some of them about Ethan's phase comment. Most of them were horrified. They said I was being strung along and that I deserved better. But a couple told me I was overreacting, that I should just enjoy the good moments and stop worrying about the future. I couldn't stop worrying about the future. I tried. I even journaled, meditated, tried every self-help trick I could find, but nothing worked. The thought that I was temporary kept creeping in, turning every little action into a test I didn't want to take. Then came a turning point. Ethan invited me to meet his family for a casual dinner. I was excited but nervous. Meeting family always feels like a big step, and given everything, I wasn't sure how to feel. At dinner, his parents were lovely, warm, welcoming, but every compliment from them felt bittersweet. Every smile and "you're so nice" made me think they don't know the truth. They think I'm important to him. But am I really? After dinner, Ethan and I walked home. I asked him why he even bothered introducing me to his family if he wasn't serious. He paused. I like you. I enjoy being with you. I don't see the harm in spending time together. I want you to meet them because you're part of my life now, even if I don't know what the future holds. Even saying that out loud didn't make me feel better. I wanted more. I wanted a declaration, a promise, something solid. And I realized that maybe I was asking for something he couldn't, or wouldn't give. That night, I lay awake, wrestling with myself. I loved him. I really did. But I was starting to understand that love alone might not be enough. If he could say so casually that I was a phase, if he could flirt with others and shrug it off, if he couldn't commit to seeing me as more than temporary, maybe I was fighting for something that wasn't there. But leaving felt impossible. The idea of cutting him out of my life when we had so many shared memories, laughs, and late-night talks felt unbearable. I wanted to cling to the joy he brought me, even if it was fleeting, and so I stayed. But I started changing. I became more guarded, less vulnerable. I tried to protect myself emotionally while still being present. I laughed less freely. I teased less openly. I stopped letting him see the raw parts of me. I told myself it was self-preservation, but part of me knew I was slowly building walls around my heart. This is where I am now, Reddit. 6 months in, still seeing him, still caring for him, but constantly aware that I might just be a phase. Every smile, every touch, every shared laugh is tinged with anxiety and doubt. I'm torn between staying in the happiness I have and leaving to protect myself from the inevitable hurt. ITA for continuing to date someone who has told me I'm just a phase? After months of this emotional tug of war, I felt like I was constantly walking on a tightrope. Every interaction with Ethan was simultaneously the best and the worst thing I could experience. I loved being with him, loved the small, mundane moments we shared, but every smile or laugh carried an undercurrent of fear. Fear that it could all end at any moment, that I wasn't truly valued, that I was, as he said, just a phase. The real breaking point started subtly. It wasn't a single event, but a series of moments that piled up until I couldn't ignore them anymore. It began when one of my close friends, Sarah, confronted me about the situation. We were sitting in a coffee shop one Saturday afternoon, and I had just vented for the 10th time about how I felt like a placeholder. Sarah stared at me, frustrated. "You like him, right?" she asked, sipping her latte. "Yes, I do. More than I've liked anyone in a long time," I admitted. "Then why the hell are you letting him treat you like a backup plan?" she said, voice rising. "He literally told you you're a phase. That's not harmless honesty. That's cruel!" I didn't have a good answer. I tried to justify it in my head. I like him. He's honest. I don't want to ruin what we have. Maybe I'm overreacting. But Sarah didn't let me off the hook. She was relentless. "You deserve someone who wants you, not someone who's keeping you around until they find someone better. You know that deep down. So why are you pretending it's okay?" Her words hit hard, but even harder was the truth in them. I knew she was right. And yet, leaving him felt impossible. I couldn't explain why. I just couldn't. I liked him too much, and the thought of losing him entirely was unbearable, even knowing how precarious everything was. Then things got worse. Ethan's behavior started to feel different. Subtle at first. Longer glances at other women, longer conversations with female coworkers that he didn't feel the need to share with me. Casual touches that lingered just a little too long. The small signs that might have been innocent if I hadn't known what he said before now felt like reminders that I wasn't enough. One evening, we were at a small dinner with a group of friends. Ethan was talking to this woman who had recently joined his yoga class. She was funny, charming, and confident, and Ethan was clearly engaged in the conversation. I tried to remind myself to relax, to not overthink, but when I glanced at him laughing at something she said, something in my chest tightened. Later that night, when we were alone, I confronted him. "Why do you flirt with her?" I asked, voice shaking. He looked confused. "I'm not flirting," he said. "I'm just talking. I thought you were okay with this not being serious." "I'm not okay with it," I snapped, the words spilling out faster than I could control. "You can say I'm a phase all you want, but that doesn't give you permission to act like this." "I'm here, I care about you, and this hurts me," he sighed, running a hand through his hair again. "I can't control my interactions with people. I'm not trying to hurt you. I thought we agreed we weren't in the same place emotionally. That was the problem. I hadn't agreed. I had been pretending, hoping that I could somehow reconcile my feelings with his. But now the tension was too much. I realized that I was constantly compromising my own needs, putting his feelings and honesty above my own sense of worth. Things reached a head 2 weeks later. Ethan invited me to a small party at a friend's apartment. I almost said no, but I wanted to spend time with him and hoped maybe things would feel normal again. At the party, I noticed him talking to another woman, someone I had never met before. They were laughing, leaning in close to hear each other over the music. My chest twisted, a familiar ache rising. I tried to ignore it, telling myself I was being paranoid. But the feeling didn't go away. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I grabbed his arm and pulled him aside. "I can't do this," I whispered. "I can't keep pretending I'm fine with being a phase. I like you so much, but this isn't okay. You don't see me the way I see you, and it hurts." He looked at me, a mixture of frustration and pity on his face. "I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not. I like you, I enjoy being with you, but I can't promise more than that. If you can't accept that, maybe you shouldn't be here." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt anger, hurt, and heartbreak all at once. For the first time, I realized that staying in this relationship wasn't just about my feelings. It was about my self-respect. I couldn't keep allowing myself to be treated as temporary, even if it meant losing the person I cared about deeply. I left the party early that night. Walking home, tears streamed down my face, but for the first time there was a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't leaving because I stopped caring. I wasn't leaving because I didn't love him. I was leaving because I realized that loving someone shouldn't come at the cost of your own dignity. The next day, I sent him a message. It was short, but it said everything I needed it to. I can't keep doing this. I care about you, but I need to be with someone who wants me the way I want them. I hope you understand, he responded quickly. I get it. I'm sorry. I really like you, and I didn't mean to hurt you. I hope you find what you're looking for. It was polite. It was considerate. But it also felt final. After that, I went through a period of intense reflection. I thought about what I had learned from the relationship. I realized that honesty, while important, isn't an excuse for behavior that undermines someone else's emotional well-being. I understood that enjoying someone's company doesn't make a relationship healthy or fair. And most importantly, I learned that caring for someone deeply doesn't mean you have to stay if your fundamental needs aren't being met. I reconnected with friends I had been neglecting, focused on hobbies and work, and gave myself time to heal. I still thought about him sometimes, and sometimes I even missed the fun, light moments we shared. But I also knew that I had made the right choice for me. And yet the question that brought me here still lingers. AITA for staying as long as I did after he told me I was just a phase? For enjoying the moments we had even knowing the risks? For loving him while recognizing I might eventually be hurt? I struggle with this because part of me feels like I was foolish. Part of me feels like I wasted months on someone who couldn't fully commit. But another part of me thinks that I did what I could to enjoy happiness while protecting myself. As best as I could. I'm sharing this because I genuinely want to understand if I was in the wrong, if my actions were selfish, naive, or unfair in any way. I want to see this from an outside perspective because, honestly, I feel conflicted. I don't regret caring for him, but I also don't want to look back and think I allowed myself to be treated as temporary. After I finally ended things with Ethan, there was an overwhelming sense of emptiness at first. The house felt quieter without his presence, the nights lonelier without his messages, the weekends less colorful without our little routines. I kept replaying moments in my head, the silly jokes, the late-night conversations, even the small touches that once felt comforting. But alongside the nostalgia was relief. Relief that I no longer had to live in constant anxiety. Relief that I could start putting myself first without feeling guilty. The first few days were the hardest. I caught myself reaching for my phone, wanting to text him about something funny that happened at work, or a meme I knew he'd laugh at. Then I remembered he wasn't my person. Not entirely. And for the first time in months, I realized that I could live without that constant undercurrent of insecurity. I started spending more time with friends, reconnecting with people I had unintentionally sidelined while wrapped up in the relationship. Conversations were lighter, laughter more genuine. And slowly, I started to feel like myself again. The version of me that doesn't second-guess every laugh, every glance, every word someone says. Of course, there were still moments of doubt. Was I wrong to stay as long as I did? I asked myself repeatedly. Was I foolish to let myself feel happy in a relationship that could never fully commit? Those questions came up often, especially when I saw couples around me or heard stories of people who seemed to have it all together. But then I thought about Ethan, not to pine, but to understand. He wasn't malicious. He wasn't cruel. He was honest, brutally so, but in a way that I eventually understood. His words were a reflection of his limits, not of my worth. He genuinely liked me, but he didn't or couldn't see me as the person he wanted to build a future with. And that wasn't my fault. That was simply the reality. Looking back, I realized that staying as long as I did wasn't wrong. It wasn't ideal maybe, but it wasn't unethical or cruel. I experienced love, connection, and joy, even if fleeting. I learned about myself, what I could tolerate, what I couldn't, how to recognize my emotional boundaries. I learned that being with someone who is emotionally unavailable, even with honesty, can be damaging if I don't protect myself. I also learned the importance of communication and self-advocacy. I had spoken up multiple times, expressing my discomfort, voicing my feelings, and trying to navigate a relationship that was inherently mismatched in terms of emotional commitment. That, in itself, was an act of self-respect. Staying didn't mean I condoned being treated as a phase. It meant I was willing to experience the present fully while negotiating my boundaries. One of the most valuable lessons came from forgiving myself. I often felt like I had made mistakes, staying too long, caring too deeply, hoping he might change. But the truth is, love isn't always rational. Emotions aren't binary. They're messy, layered, and sometimes contradictory. Staying didn't make me weak or naive. It made me human. Over time, I noticed changes in how I approached relationships. I became more attuned to my needs, more aware of red flags, and more willing to walk away when fundamental compatibility isn't present. I also became more empathetic to others who are navigating similar situations, those who love someone who doesn't fully reciprocate, those who feel temporary in someone's life, those who struggle to reconcile desire and reality. Ethan and I don't speak anymore, and I don't know if we will. Sometimes I think about him and smile at the good times. Other times I feel a pang of sadness remembering what I wished could have been, but I don't feel bitterness. I don't feel regret in the sense of wishing I had done something differently. I feel gratitude for the lessons, the growth, and the reminder that valuing myself is not negotiable. So here I am, Reddit, reflecting on the question I first asked, AITA for continuing to date someone after he told me I was just a phase? From my perspective now, I don't think I am. I acted with honesty toward myself and toward him. I navigated my feelings, tried to communicate openly, and made choices based on my emotional needs. I experienced joy, connection, and love, and I also recognized when it was necessary to step away. That's not being an asshole. That's being human. The takeaway I want to share is this. Honesty from someone else doesn't automatically make a situation fair or healthy for you. And loving someone, even deeply, doesn't mean you must tolerate being treated as temporary. There's a balance between enjoying the present and protecting your future emotional well-being, and finding that balance is messy, difficult, and sometimes painful, but it's necessary. In the end, I stayed as long as I could, loved as much as I could, and learned as much as I could. And now, I'm ready to love again. Someone who sees me as more than a phase, someone who wants me in the present and the future.